pin entered in? Yay, nay? All right, up on the board. We get started. Okay, we got a lot to cover tonight, so let's go ahead and get started if we could. All right, this week is week 11. We're going to be doing troubleshooting tonight. Network calls is due Sunday. A number of you have already turned that in. That's the deadline for it. Even if you get, remember, 1 or 2 calls, you're good. Okay, just do the best you can on the network calls. And then next week, this was already in the schedule, but you need time to work on your research paper presentation. 10-minute research paper, 15 to 20 slides. No face-to-face class. Use the entire time to work on your presentation and research paper. Whether you're on campus or at home, take that time to use it, because we have week 13 after that, where we do our installing client lab, and then weeks 14 and 15, both weeks are used for presentations. So this is it. We're on the countdown, right? Week 11 is this week. Week 12 is your work on research paper presentation. I'm going to help you in just a second to help you with that. Inside of week 12, there is a PowerPoint template to help you on creating a PowerPoint if you've never created one. Highlight points, not word for word, of your research paper in your PowerPoint. And then your research paper, I want to go over that real quick. We went over our first few weeks. I want to kind of recap on the instructions for research paper. It's in the course documents. Remember, research paper is 5 to 7 pages. It says here, success in your career will greatly depend upon written and oral communication, and school recognizes the need for students to develop proficiency in these skills, require all students to submit a research paper and provide an oral presentation in class in this department. So 5 to 7 pages, excluding illustrations and bibliography. Margins are 1 inch all the way around except for 1.5 on the top. Spacing is double space for normal text, single space for long quotes. Font size is 10 to 12 point. Font type, Times New Roman or Courier. You can use illustrations if they're of good quality. I always tell students, you know it's a good quality if you wouldn't throw it away. If you would keep it for future reference, it's good quality. Like a graph of wireless networking security protocols and what they are, and a description that might be of good quality for you. And then cover sheet is optional. You don't need a binder because you're going to email it to me the night of your presentation. You've already given me your topic, so let's go ahead and go over the presentation part. You're going to play the part of instructor, developing people skills. If you have stage fright, the best way to overcome it is to present something that you know. We know each other in here. You've known each other a few weeks now, and so we will all learn from each other on this presentation. And time yourself, because students always say, there's no way I'm going to get a presentation in 10 minutes. You'll be surprised, and we'll kind of help you with that on the right side of the board in just a little bit. 10-minute presentation is not long, okay? You got a minute intro, a minute conclusion, and 8 minutes in between. I always have to tell students around the 9-minute mark, 1 minute, and they're like, really? Surprised it went that fast. Okay, and so you will go a lot quicker than you think. 10 minutes goes a lot quicker. You can go up to 15 minutes though. Most of you will probably hit the 15-minute mark. All right? We split this up, by the way, between 14 and 15, weeks 14 and 15. So you have 2 weeks, and we'll look at the names and who's going when in just a second. You can use visual aids. I've had students in the past do live demos of their presentation, set up a Wi-Fi network maybe, showing you some procedure, take a video. I've had students take video of what they've done at home and bring it in and show it up on the overhead. So you can be creative on it. You don't have to just have PowerPoint and that's it. You can use other things. You can use a whiteboard as well. Handouts are acceptable if of lasting value. And again, the lasting value piece is, would you keep it yourself? If you would keep it yourself and find it informational, then definitely it's going to be of lasting value. And we got a print over here, and we can print them out for you and make copies. Just let me know if you're going to have handouts. On week 13, I will actually remind you again of anybody that might have handouts, because weeks 14 and 15 is when the presentations take place. Topics, you're going to keyword base your presentation on your research paper. The one thing I don't want is a word for word, verbatim reading of your research paper. And I'll kind of help you with that in just a second on the board, how to do that. You're just going to highlight the outline of your research paper in your presentation. When you're finished with your presentation, you're always going to ask the courtesy question, are there any questions? Now, students will have questions sometimes. I will always have one question per student that I'll ask you. I do it every year. This is my 13th year. And I'll ask you a simple question of what you went over, just kind of insight or finding out a little bit more about it, or what you think about something. But if other students have questions, if you don't know the answer, say, I don't know. If you know where to find it, say, hey, maybe you can find it in this book I looked at or this online resource I looked at. I can email it to you, something like that, okay? And so just be honest on your responses. Then the suggested topics you've already went over. Now let's look on the right side of the board here. Let's say you do your presentation on a home wireless network. Some of you have chosen wireless networking. It's a popular topic. Let's say you've already done your research paper. And believe it or not, 5 to 7 pages of research paper is not a lot of content. You're going to see a lot of stuff out there and gather information and basically hone it down to 5 to 7 pages. Okay? What you're going to have to do first, though, before you ever begin researching anything, is come up with an outline. Okay? Every English teacher tells you this, right? And I'm not an English professor. I don't claim to be. But when I was taking English in college, I was unlike I was just like every other college student. Told you to do the outline. You thought, well, what's the meaning of an outline? Who cares, right? What's it matter? Well, it really does matter, because if you don't create an outline, I found out, if you're forced to go back and do an outline because you have so much content, you're just kind of going here, there, and everywhere. And so an outline is going to help you force your research to a certain area. And then you take those areas of outline that you've done research on and then dumb it down to 5 to 7 pages of content. So let's look at the overhead on the board here. Home wireless networks, we have an intro. This is why I did home wireless networking, because I'm interested in home wireless networking. I've set up a number of them for myself and other users. And I'm going to show you in this presentation how to set up a home wireless network in a few easy steps. Okay? Secondly, the history of a home wireless network. These little numbers in red mean this is how many slides are attributed to each point. I'm just jotting it down on paper. Okay, I'm jotting down on paper the points I want to kind of put out. 2 to 3 slides, 2 to 3 points of information for your research paper. And then how to set up a wireless network, 4 to 6. Security choices, 7 to 11. And then for the future of home wireless networks, 12 to 15. And then finally, conclusion. These points, intro, history, how to set up, security choices, future of home wireless, become the outline for your research. Okay? You just take those bulleted points and then you begin researching those points and only those points. You don't go anywhere else. Because some of you are doing something like maybe you have just wireless networking. It's pretty wide. It's pretty wide spectrum. You want to narrow it down to something that's plausible and easy to research and easy to present. Okay? Because again, it's only 5 to 7 pages and only 10 to 15 minute presentation. And so with this type of thing, you're narrowing it down pretty narrow on your scope. So you don't just want security, you want how to set up a home wireless network, or how to, what are the different protocols, different security protocols, and then do a historical view of it. Where have they been, where are we now, and where are they going? Okay? So these become the outline for your research. Once you get all your content, don't worry about putting it together. Just get the information for each area first. Gather it from the web. Now, let me just tell you on the web. When you get a URL information from a website, all I need in the bibliography is the URL. That's it. Is the URL information. That's it. That's all I need. Okay? Now, If you're using Word to create your research paper, it has in Word the ability to add what's called footnotes as you're typing the paper. If you want to use that feature, you may do so, because what it'll do is it'll actually, if you use footnotes, you literally type in or paste that URL as you're typing in your information. If it's a quote from a website, make sure and resource it as a quote and put it in quotes. It came from this website. This is not my words, this is from the website. Okay? But as you do research, whether you read online, do magazines, talk to people, you're going to come up with your own ideas in all these areas, and you'll have a lot of resources. And I want you to attribute all those resources. So Network Joe, all the websites, all the magazines or books that you researched during your research time, note all of that stuff. Even though you might not have used them all, you want to note them as, hey, I looked at all this stuff, okay? That's going to also be at the very end of your presentation. And so, as long as you have in your paper 5 to 7 pages, you have some logic on your setup of your paper like this, you're going to get a full 75 points for that paper. Okay? I'm not going to grade on grammar. I'm not going to grade you off on commas or, capitalization. Do your best, okay? But I'm not going to grade you off on that information, just so you won't be scared off the front. I'm not going to do that, okay? The only thing you're going to be graded on is content. That's it. If I can see you have some flow of logic from beginning to end, and it's 5 to 7 pages, you're good, okay? At the end of that 5 to 7 pages, you're going to have a works-cited page that'll have on there all of the information, all the resources that you've looked at. And the way I do it is, the easiest way to do it is, as you're researching, most of you are going to do all yours online anyway, as you're researching, just copy and paste that URL into a Word document and save it as the name bibliography. Save that document as the name bibliography. That way at the end of your research, when you're done, you just take that bibliography page and paste it on the end. Okay? That's all you've got to do. Yes?
That's just an example.
That's just an example, yes, to help people on research and presentation.
Are you looking for citation in the paper itself or just bibliography?
Just bibliography, yeah. But I did tell them they could use some footnote feature in Word if you're going to use Word. Right. You can use that, yeah. Okay? All right, any other questions on the paper or the presentation? Now again, the red numbers, the way I suggest students to do it, and it's helped over the years for students, is if you put in your mind how many slides you want to attribute to this information before you ever start researching, that'll help you tremendously. Okay? So we've got 16 slides up here, easily 10 to 15 minutes, easily. Okay? And so I always tell students too, if for instance you're here on your presentation and you know you forgot something here, don't worry about it. Keep going, because you're going to run out of time. That make sense? Don't worry about it. Just keep going. Okay? I kind of heard a funny story yesterday, which I don't watch a lot of her, but Martha Stewart, right? Anybody heard of Martha Stewart before? Never. Anyway, she had a story about going with the flow as a host, and that'll be kind of what you guys are doing that night, presenting. She talked about fixing a roast, working all day on it, right? Bringing it out and literally dumping it on the floor right before walking out into the dining area and dumping it on the floor, and everybody looking at her. And she's had this happen. She said, I'll just pick it up. Let me go get another one. She walks into the kitchen, dusts it off, put it back on another plate, and brings it out. And so the reason I tell that story is when you're giving a presentation, you're going to forget stuff. I forget stuff all the time. You know that. You're going to forget stuff on your presentation that you wanted to cover. Just keep going, because you will have a lot of information and and you'll run out of time. And I don't want you to do that. I don't want you to feel rushed. So I'm giving you the freedom now and telling you in the license to say, hey, if you see something, Professor Conkle sees something on slide 2 I didn't cover, and I skipped it, I'm going to get graded. No, you're not going to get graded off for it. I'm going to tell you right now. You're not going to get graded off for it. Okay? So just keep going with the flow, and I will not bring it up at the end of the presentation either. I won't say, I noticed on slide 2 you didn't come up with that point that was there on second bullet on slide 2. I'm not going to say that. Okay? So, does that help you? So, relax when you're doing the presentation. I do not want you to feel any stress from me whatsoever or from each other. One of the things that's going to help as you present is when you're presenting, the presenter and the presentee, the audience, what I need you guys to do for everybody when they're presenting is to definitely look at them, smile maybe a little bit, look interested, nod like, yes, I really get what you're saying. All right? Believe me, it's going to help them a lot. It's going to help you a lot when you're up here, okay? So try to get a good night's sleep before you give your presentation. I know sometimes we try our best to do stuff like that, and stuff happens, and you come to that night and you're maybe have a flat tire, you're sick, but you're going to do it anyway. You're determined, I'm going to do it anyway, okay? That's fine. Just have the best attitude you can coming in to your presentation. The research paper will be due the night of your presentation. And let me go ahead and bring up that schedule real quick, which is week 14 and 15. Let's see here. Week 14. If your last name begins A through N, you are presenting on week 14, which is December 1st.
If our what?
If your last name begins A through N, December 1st. Yeah, it's already in there. And then week 15, the rest of the people. Okay? And let me just make note on week 15. I do this for my photography class, this class, and 1:30. I have a party at the very last class, and I bring pizza. It's a non-alcoholic party, okay? I bring pizza. You guys bring all the snacks and pop and whatever desserts you want to bring. I always tell every class I like German chocolate cake, but there's no pressure to bring any.
Watch, you see 10 of them pop up.
Yeah, really, exactly. But I'll remind you of this on week 13 and 14 of the favorite cakes I like, which I don't really need them. But anyway, after that night, week 15, we're going to walk over to the IT lab and do probably about 25-minute little tour of everything from the ops center, the operations center, kind of where they see all the stuff that goes on the network, to 3Com voice over IP, all the servers, their backup system, and some of the newer systems that we have in here that they just recently implemented. I'll showcase those for you as well, okay? And so you kind of get to see the Rock Valley College network, how it functions. You'll also get to talk to the technician over there that night and ask him some questions. That's always fun. Okay, so we'll do that the very last night. So as whoever's presenting that last night, it's kind of nice for you because people will be eating and drinking, and then there will be less pressure on you, hopefully, that last night. And then afterwards, we all walk over and do the tour before that's our very last thing we do together. And that wraps up the pct110 course. So let me go ahead and recap real quick where we're at and where we're going. Week 11 is tonight. We're going to go do in just a second a presentation. I'm going to show you a real quick video of a prior class PowerPoint, how they did theirs. They'll just kind of forward fast through it and just kind of show you an example. And then we're going to look at, if I can get there, we're going to look at a PowerPoint on troubleshooting. I've got it right here. On troubleshooting network problems. We're going to look at about 30 slides here on this one. Take a break and then come back, and we're going to do, you should have a handout in front of you right now that looks like this on troubleshooting exercise. In fact, your handout will look like this, troubleshooter with your name on it. Go ahead and put your name on that sheet so you won't forget, because after we take a break, what we're going to do is everybody in here will have either you will be a troubleshooter, a help desk person, and you'll be the person on the other end that has a problem. And I have sheets of paper up here of multiple user type of problems, everything from their computer doesn't start to they can't get on the internet, mood swings, people have cannot speak English well, do not follow directions well, because networking is not just about computers, it's about people. Okay? It's Monday morning at 9 o'clock, you get a call from the same person every Monday morning at 9 o'clock, and they always have the same problem, which you seemingly fix every Monday. And some of that has to do with maybe they don't have a friend, and that's their only conversation that morning is with you. Yes, and we talk about that, and we put some real world scenarios here that you guys will do. So you'll be a troubleshooter, you'll put the seats back to back, I'll do ring ring, and you'll begin troubleshooting, and it's a lot of fun. So you'll be a troubleshooter, plus you'll also be the person that has the problem with the computer, or you could also have a problem with your emotions. You'll also have that too, some of you. And I will pick and choose who those people are in here. I've got to know some of you a little bit, so that'll be a fun one. All right? So let's go and get started with the video first of an example video here of a final presentation.
Keep touching.
This was on cell phone security. I'm just going to kind of forward fast.
Over our
I'll forward faster a
web
little bit.
security threats, ways to defeat those threats, some future uses of cell phones, which isn't all that futuristic, but just things that aren't really mainstream yet in the States versus Japan, which everything I was reading says that they're about 5 years ahead of us, which is about right with just about everything electronic, it seems like.
Okay, I'm going to forward fast just so you can see this, the slides that he had on his presentations, on his presentation he gave here. I won't look at, have you hear all the audio on it.
I have something on there about zombies.
I don't know. I think it might. I don't remember. But this has 2 or 3 examples here for you. I'll post a link of this, by the way, on our course site, so you can have it. You can kind of see some examples of different presentations.
Allow him to do what he's doing today.
All right.
Why did you go at half an hour?
Do I know?
Why did you go at half an hour?
That was 3 of them together.
Was
Yeah.
that last one on a specific person?
Do I know?
The last one, was that on a specific person?
Yeah, it was a hacker they highlighted. Yep.
There you go, girlfriend.
Yeah. Okay. But I'll put a link in our site for you to use. That'll help a lot. Well, let's go and go over troubleshooting. Then we're going to go right into the lab. Objective of this is looking at different methodologies to troubleshoot on any network problem. You'll notice on your piece of paper there on number 1 in front of you, number 1 in front of you has in there some steps. One of them is a first step on any network problem that comes your way is you need to identify the problem. And we're going to look at that in just a second. So we're going to be some steps here that we'll look at. Follow a systematic troubleshooting process, document them, and then finally some software that's used to diagnose these problems. So when you're looking at a methodology to troubleshoot any problem on a network, you're going to have some logic behind it and some methodology to your madness, hopefully, on steps of here's what I do first, here's what I do second, here's what I do third, so on and so forth. A logical approach prevents wasteful time or wasteful, time-consuming efforts, unnecessary software, hardware replacements. Because if you don't have all the reasons why something's happened, you can do a lot of work and really for nothing. Okay? And I'll give you an example. An example would be a user calls and they have a problem. They can't connect to the internet. Okay? Let me give you some extreme responses to this. We're going to install all Internet Explorer browsers on every computer. Now, would that be a smart thing to do right off the bat? We're going to retrain everybody on how to use the internet. That's how we're going to do it. That's why their internet's not working. Okay, I'm just giving you some extreme things that you shouldn't do. Okay? It might be, as she mentioned, it might be the fact that maybe, just maybe, they might have some connectivity problems on their computer. Their Cat5 might be disconnected. The first thing you'll do is find out, and you'll find out tonight on these steps, Does anybody else around this person have problems too? Or is it isolated to this person? If it's isolated to this person, that's going to narrow down the scope of your sequence of following procedures for how am I going to tackle this, okay? And so there's certain procedures to go by, to look at. Use experience when necessary. Like I talked about the Monday person calling. You'll have those people. Every week, you'll know the steps to go through to fix whatever problem it is that they have. Jot it down, have it down in a database for when you're gone. Other people in the tech area can use it. So troubleshooting steps. First is identifying the symptoms and the problems. Identify the affected area. Identify the affected area. Determine what has changed. Establish the most probable cause. Determine if escalation is necessary. Create an action plan and a solution. Implement a solution. Test the results. Identify the results and effects. And then finally, document everything to the T. This is a step that most IT shops do not do. If you have a problem in a situation, more than likely that same problem and situation will come up again at a later date. It will. And so if you have a documented procedure of how to tackle that, that's going to help you tremendously on whenever that problem comes up, how you're going to tackle it and how you're going to solve it. So to identify the symptoms and problems, how are we going to do that? Ask questions. Identify if it's a network problem. This will help you. Identify it. Avoid jumping to conclusions about symptoms, like the example I gave you of reinstalling Internet Explorer. Okay? Pay attention. Users, system and network behaviors, error messages. Treat every system uniquely, or every symptom uniquely. The one thing you don't want to do as IT is get an attitude of, oh yeah, I know what that is, that's easy. Oh yeah, I know what that is. That happens all the time. You don't want that attitude. The reason not that you're wrong in your thinking, it's wrong in the attitude of your thinking. Does that make sense? You want to make every symptom unique. And what that's going to do is not only help you solve the problem, but the end user will be treated differently. If they know that they're unique, they mean something to you, their problems mean something to you, you're going to handle it differently. We've all had IT people and service people just shrug us off, right? So you go up to a counter and somebody's talking on the phone. Yeah, what are you doing tonight? Uh-huh. Really? Oh, just a second. Oh, yeah, that's funny. Oh, yeah. Woo. I mean, isn't that annoying? We've all had it, right? In IT, that doesn't work anymore. If you're not a people person, or you don't try to be a people person, then in this field, we don't survive anymore. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. A lot of IT firms are now sending folks to School of Sales, to how to win friends and influence people. Dale Carnegie School of Sales, getting people to have more soft skills. You'll actually see a lot of IT jobs, regardless of what it is, have the word or the words soft skills somewhere in the description. That you can talk in the language and reach people in a way that they don't feel demeaned, put down, ignorant, their time's not worth your time type of thing. So you want to make sure people know that you care. That's the main thing, immediately. Say, I don't know what your problem is. I don't know why you can't connect to the internet, but I'm going to find out. This is important to me. And I'll get back to you and find out exactly what's going on. But first I need to answer a few questions if you could. Were you able to connect to the internet last night before you came into work? Yeah, I was able to get in. When you logged in this morning, was there anything weird that you saw on your computer? Anything that happened? I did notice it took a little bit longer to log in. Okay. Have you tried to do anything else on your computer? No, I checked my email and that took a little bit to get in, longer than usual. Well, all these little notes that they're putting in there, these little hints of what they just said, could mean they have some type of network lag problem on their computer, or the next question would be asked, how long has it been since you've restarted your computer or shut it down? It could be a system resource issue. And if there's a long pause and they go, I don't shut my computer down, it might have been a couple weeks. Well, let's do this for me. Let's restart your machine, log back in, try to get on the internet and give me a call back and let me know how it is. If you don't call me back within 10 minutes, I'm going to follow up and make sure. And that's important too. People, when they call you for service, want your response back. They don't want to have to follow up themselves with you. Does that make sense? And so I will tell them, if you want, in 10 minutes, if you have not called me back, I will call you back, and then follow up on them. And a lot of times, they won't call back, but I'll call back in 10 minutes and say, hey, I just wanted to see if you get on the internet. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't call you back. I forgot. We got in a meeting. But yeah, it's working fine. It's probably just the fact I hadn't started my computer in a couple weeks. And then I would follow up with that and say, good, I'm glad everything's working. Just a note, from now on, you might want to, when you leave at night, just shut your computer down, and then that way this won't happen again, and things will work better, because your computer's resources can get bogged down if you don't restart after a while, especially if you're using, Internet Explorer a lot and Outlook and maybe creating Adobe Acrobat files, which a lot of businesses do. They could eat up resources real quick. Okay, I'll try that. And then you document it, you timestamp it, whatever systems you use. Today we use SharePoint a lot for this type of ticketing system, where you create a ticket, the person's name that called in, your name, the technician, what the problem was, what the solution was. You keep it active until it's closed, and then you close it. And then you can use that information. A lot of these ticket systems, actually IT departments use it to determine when it comes up for your job review. I noticed you did 120 closed tickets in the last 6 weeks. That's pretty good. That's up from the prior 6 weeks. Yeah, I mean, it's not good there's that many problems, but there's that many good that you're getting that many feedback and you're closing that many tickets. That's a good thing. And so it's job security as well as following up with people, because people out in the real world today in business want this type of thing. We call it holding hands. Holding their hands, shaking their hands along the way to make sure they know how to do something, why they need to do something, in a way that doesn't offend them, okay? And I know all of us, including myself, can always work better and be better at that whole process, okay? And that's why it's good to, periodically go to seminars on people skills and talk to each other about the problems. How can we better serve our customers? We hear that all the time. And that's a true thing, though. That's a good thing. Because without customers, and your customers in your case would be the people that have computers in your workplace that you're working all the time. That's your customers. But it could also be external customers that you're going out into the field working with. So customers can mean a different thing, but they're all the same. They're all the same object, meaning that if you don't have customers, you don't have a job. Okay? And so keeping your customers happy, both internally and externally, is the whole meaning of what we're going through tonight. So pay attention, treats each symptom uniquely. Then it says identify the affected area. One user or one workstation. Like I mentioned, that computer that has an internet problem, found out it was just that one user. Everybody around them is working fine. Is it a work group that's affected? Is it a department that's affected? Is it one location within an organization? It could be a bad switch on a network that's going bad, okay? An entire organization could be that as well. Okay, so you determine what affected areas are affected before you go any further. Then you begin to narrow it down. When did it begin? Like the question I asked, were you able to get on the internet before you left home last night? For home last night? Good question. Okay, you want to narrow down. Were you able to get in this morning? No. So something happened between last night and tonight, or this morning, that they weren't able to get in. Okay? Has a network server or workstation ever worked properly? Did the symptoms appear in the last hour or day? Have the symptoms ever appeared intermittently for a long time? Do the symptoms appear only at certain times of the day, week, month, or year? And benefits, this eliminates some causes and points to others by narrowing it down, okay? By narrowing it down to different time frames. Take time to troubleshoot correctly. Ask specific questions, like were you able to get into any other application? I had a hard time getting into the email system. Like, maybe my time system was a little slow. Filter unrelated user information. What that means is unrelated user information, they can give you information that has nothing to do with the problem, and they will. During the middle of your questions, they might say, well, I was at a meeting yesterday and I noticed 3 of the light bulbs were out in the corner of the office, and it's been like that for a couple months. That's good. I'll write that down, and I'll let the maintenance people know, even though you're not maintenance. I'll let them know, but then go on, continue on. Filter through it, continue on, let them know that you're jotting that information down, and definitely give it to the maintenance people. Discover time and frequency problem. It may reveal more subtle network problems. Identify affected problem areas, leads to the next troubleshooting area. So on this one, it could be, say, at 1 o'clock every day after lunch, one of the departments has a problem printing stuff to a printer every day at 1 o'clock, between 1 o'clock and 1:15 or something, okay? You find out later, though, after investigating it, that one of the users in your department listens to online music, streaming music using Pandora possibly, okay? Which uses a lot of bandwidth, and they do it between the hours of 12:45 and 1:15, because that's when they take their lunch break. And they're streaming it at their desk right next to the printer. That's where they're located at on the network. It's hogging all the bandwidth, slowing down and even stopping some of the print queues from going through. I've had this happen before. So what's the solution? The solution in the case I just mentioned was, after meeting with the department head and the manager about this situation, that it was causing a lot of problems and we didn't really want to upgrade anything just for Pandora to be used. They decided, as a corporate, not just picking on this one person, because there's other users doing the same thing throughout the day, to ban any streaming radio, which does take a lot of bandwidth. And that's what the solution was. And lo and behold, after we did that, no more printer problems between 1 and 1:15. No more printer problems. Okay?
How would you find that out unless you physically went there?
That's how you had to go to every single computer at that time. That's what we did, and found out what the users were doing between 1 and 1:15, and that's how we isolated the fact that the user was using Pandora. They didn't hide it from us, and we knew they were doing it. It wasn't like they were sneaking around. It was allowed. So they weren't in trouble even after we found out. So it was something that everybody was able to do at that time. And the only reason people weren't allowed to do it afterwards is because it was causing network problems. And people understood that. They weren't mad or anything or upset. Just have to stop, can't do it anymore. All right? And that'll lead to the next troubleshooting. Now, let me blow this up a little bit if I can. No. Let's do it this way. There we go. A little bit better, not much. Okay, let's look at it. This is a little diagram. Okay, first, let me shut the light off here. You can see it better. Okay, first, you determine, is the problem limited to the one user or workstation? Then you can go yes or no. If it's no, meaning there's more people, okay? Is the problem limited to one department or group? Yes or no? If it's yes, it is limited to one department or group. Examine the network segment on that group, server, routers, and so forth, and it usually stops there. But it could keep going. Is the problem universal? No. Examine the affected users and workstation more closely. How are they similar? Do the workstations use the same type of hardware? No. Were the workstations configured similarly at the same time or by the same person? Yes. Examine the software and configuration of the problem. It might be in this case Adobe Acrobat had an update about a month ago that caused network intermediate problems on all networks that downloaded this update. And a lot of networks had to back off on that update, kind of backtrack and uninstall it because it caused wireless connectivity issues, dropping wireless connectivity issues. And this was actually, the cause of it was a software update. And it was company-wide because of an Adobe update on all the clients the night before that caused this problem. And then since Adobe has sent a fix to fix that problem, and now it's okay. But that's an example of identifying a problem via a software issue that was company-wide. So determine what's changed. Has anything changed in your network recently? Ask questions, pinpoint them, resulting in network, that could be a network change of some type. Possible actions if change generated problem, like correct the problem, reverse it, like on that Adobe issue, run it back before the update, uninstall it. This is less risky, less time consuming to go back. Network change records, what has changed in the network. Make records available to staff members. And a lot of times it can be as simple as an update the night before on a server that caused the problem. I've had that happen. To a user bringing in a laptop that brought in a virus to their department segment on the network. I've had that happen as well. And again, the only way I found that out was a user came in from sales off the road for about a week. They were fine before that, but the day they came in is when all the problems started happening. And we found out when they connected, from the time they connected their laptop is when it started. Okay, we grabbed the laptop, and sure enough, it was just chock full of viruses and malware.
Isn't that why they check USB?
Yeah, this one actually was just, they had plugged it in via the Ethernet. As soon as they plugged it into the Ethernet, it flooded that segment of the network with that malware that they had on their computer. Yeah, immediately. So we isolated it, but it took a few hours. Now, establish probable cause, close to determining probable cause, verify user competency, ensure human error is not the source. And some of these user problems you have tonight will be human error, okay? Some of it will be people just don't like to follow instructions for whatever reason. They just refuse to follow instructions. If you tell them to click on something while you're on the phone with them and showing them how to do something, you say right click, they'll left click. That's on purpose. Or, because some people, as you'll see in the instructions tonight when we do the lab, do not, and they refuse to, at all costs, follow any instructions. I'm not joking. And some of you are like shaking your head, yeah, I know what you're talking about. You might work with people like this. I remember a while back I was looking over the shoulder of somebody showing them how to do something, and they said, what if I do this? Well, how will it affect what I'm doing? I said, don't do that, because if you do that, that's going to wipe out everything that you've worked on so far. While I was telling that, right after that, they did exactly what I told them not to do, and it wiped everything out. Right then. And they go, oh, I just did what you told me not to do. I said, can you bring it back? I go, nope, it's gone. I can't bring it back. I can't. I told you I couldn't bring it back. And a lot of people, not a lot of people, but there's a few small percent that you'll work with that will be that way. And that's just the way IT is. And you'll have to be able to deal with that and grit your teeth and smile and do your best to have a right attitude. That's where it helps, and kind of like we're going to do tonight, you'll talk about to each other these type of things inside of IT, and you might call it whatever. You can call it dump on each other. You can call it psychoanalysis. You can call it psychotherapy. Whatever you want to call it, you've got to let that off your chest. You've got to get it out. Otherwise, I have seen guys that don't ever let stuff out. It just eat them up inside. It just can't stay, and they blow up one day. That's it. It's over. You know, it could be over. I don't know. Somebody didn't somebody installed updates on their computer when they shouldn't have, and they blow up on them, and then they've lost their job. So you don't want to do that. And so there are venting mechanisms we'll talk about during the lab tonight that'll help you. Here's another one. Verify users performing network tasks correctly. Watch them like I was talking about. Even when you watch them, though, people will do things that they're not supposed to. That'll happen. Connect using VNC, like we've done in here. Use some type of remote software. That helps a lot. Talk over the phone. Results. It catches user-generated mistakes. It gains clues for further troubleshooting when you establish some type of probable cause. Also, this is important. Can you recreate the problem? I don't know how many times people say, I can't do this, I'm doing this, this, and this, and this happens. And then I try to recreate it myself, I can't do it. It's the same thing you've probably had happen, I know I have, when you have a car problem and you need to bring a mechanic, and your car's doing something, you bring it in, sure enough, when you bring it in, you start it up and whatever, you tell the mechanic what's wrong, they're like, I don't see what you're talking about. Didn't do it to me. Not doing it now. Okay? We've all had that happen, right? Same thing with recreation. Just because you can't reproduce it doesn't mean it didn't happen. I have learned that over the years. Now, used to when I was younger, I thought they were lying. Now, some people are lying, but majority of people are telling the truth and something happened. But what's missing is they're usually not telling you the whole story is what it is. That's what I found out. They're not telling you everything that they did for that before that symptom occurred. Does that make sense? They're just telling you what they think you should know. Okay? Not everything that actually happened. And some of these will actually be fleshed out in the lab tonight. An example might be, say, has anybody had any experience installing AOL when it used to be real big? You know, back in the day, it used to be real big, AOL software. Well, AOL software was real prone for, we called it hogware, because it would really infiltrate the system and just take over TCP/IP protocol, and it would just bog up the network and the system. It was very difficult to get out of the system once it was installed. We would tell clients all the time and users, please do not install AOL because it causes problems on the network. You don't need it, yada, yada, yada. Well, sure enough, somebody installed AOL on one of their laptops, had some problems, found out later they couldn't connect to the internet one morning. We asked them, well, have you installed anything recently on your computer? No, not really. Can't think of anything. Okay. So we went through the whole list of questions. Was it working okay yesterday? Was it working okay last night? When did it start happening? I don't quite remember when it started happening. I just noticed it periodically happening here recently. Okay. When we got the laptop, trying to troubleshoot over the phone was meaningless. It wasn't going to get anywhere. We weren't being able to find anything out. We got the laptop, found out AOL was installed. We approached the person and said, how long has AOL been installed? I didn't know AOL was on my... Did you guys install that? Well, it's company policy. We don't install AOL. We don't allow AOL, so more than likely we probably didn't put that in the image. That wasn't there when we gave it to you. Oh, that's weird. I wonder if one of the techs might have installed it on accident. I'm like, I doubt it. I said, that's not protocol to do that, but whatever. We're going to go in and uninstall it for you because you really don't need it, and it's going to cause a lot of network problems. Oh, okay. So we uninstalled it, got everything back to what it was going, gave him back the laptop. Now, was he lying? Yes, he was. Our tech did not install it. It didn't come that way when we gave it to them. So either they installed it or their kids installed it, but we didn't do it. People will do that. They will not tell you the whole story. Okay? And if they don't tell you the whole story, that's when you physically have to generally go, and I found this very useful piece of knowledge here for you. Don't play email tag back and forth or phone tag with the person if you're getting nowhere. After 2 or 3 questions and you find out you're not getting anywhere. You're not isolating it. You're not getting down to what's going on here. Physically walk over to that person's area or have somebody else and deal with that situation face to face. it's going to help you tremendously to do it that way. Yeah, it is. It's the best way to do it. It really is. And not for people that are just, like in this case, lying to you about something, but people that really need a lot of help. They just might need help on a new system, a new laptop they just was purchased for them. It might be a training thing, whatever. It helps tremendously, like I said, just to walk over and physically touch that desk, touch that computer, talk to that person face to face. Will save you a lot of time and headache to do that. And you'll kind of do that tonight when you do the lab. And it's a lot easier to do it that way. So say you can recreate the error. You log in, you follow the steps, same steps they told you they did. You ask questions. You ask user precisely what was done before the error happened. And that'll generally help you replicate it. Then you can verify the physical layer of the problem. What this is half of all network problems occur over the physical layer, meaning the physical layer is your Cat5 cable from your computer to the wall, or wireless. Physical layer. Symptoms, segment, wire, switch, hub, improper noise or a lot of noise, like in factories where they have a lot of electrical interference. Maybe your tech person installed some Cat5 cable where they should have installed fiber, because fiber is more noise susceptible than Cat5 is. And because they installed Cat5 next to an office right next to the shop, now they're getting a lot of noise interference on the network in that area. Okay? Improper terminations, faulty connectors, loose connectors. People trip over cables all the time. Had a student last week, not in my class, but he said his computer was shutting down all the time in the lab downstairs. Well, I went over and looked at it. He said he started it up for me, and sure enough, when he sat down, it shut off. I said, I said, well, let me get in there and look at it and see what's going on. So I scooted the chair out, and I got on my hands and knees, and right where his feet were was the where the plug-in was, and it was just barely plugged into the connector. The power cord was just barely plugged in, just kind of hanging there, and just barely plugged in. And so it would intermediately get power, and then when he would sit down, he would hit it with his foot, and it would shut off. So we seated the plug-in, everything worked fine. But he had actually been struggling with that problem for the last 30 minutes. He would turn it on, move around a little bit, and it would shut off. Okay? And so, it took me a couple minutes to figure it out, but it wasn't until I walked over there, sat down, see what he was doing, and saw the wires right under there and realized what was happening. And so, same with Cat5 cable. People in offices sometimes move stuff around when they shouldn't move stuff around possibly, or they're cleaning, or stuff gets spilled. Liquids get spilled, it can cause damage. Damaged cables, faulty NIC cards, that happens more than you think. Software errors may also point to the physical connectivity problems. There's pieces in software that will tell you all the time, like for instance, maybe it's a wireless NIC card in a laptop, and it says all the time, disconnecting, 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 disconnecting. And you find out after troubleshooting it that the wireless NIC card is going bad on a laptop, okay? And it's disconnecting all the time. And it could be a hardwired NIC card too. It could be the same thing, disconnecting all the time. Continue on the physical layer. Diagnosing physical layer problems, ask questions, verify, physically go around to the computers and verify those devices are connected correctly. And the best way is this next one, is swapping the equipment, bringing a laptop to that desk area, plugging it into the Ethernet that's there, and seeing if there's any disconnections there with your laptop, a test laptop possibly that you have, that you carry around with you all the time, to test things like that to make sure there's connectivity. Then you can exchange faulty components for a functional one. Let me have your laptop for the day. Here's a loaner. It's got all the software on that you use. I'll get the internet or email working for you, and we'll get on and figure out what's going on immediately. So they're not losing any productivity that way, and then they're happy because they've got something to work with, and then you've got their laptop to figure out what's going on. Okay? And it might take a day or two to figure it out. Change a patch cable. That's real cheap and inexpensive to do, and always have an IT, a whole bunch of patch cables around. Better option, build-in redundancy. And this one means having a whole bunch of redundancy plans in place to where if one system fails in one location, or one laptop fails in one location, or one computer fails in one location, they've got backups to everything to go to in that area that they can function until it's fixed. This one basically just goes over, like the last one, some type of logic on is it isolated, is it by group, so on and so forth, all the way till you get down to the solution and the test. Then the most probable cause, continuing on, verify logical connectivity, review questions identifying those connectivity problems. Logical connectivity problems are more difficult to resolve than physical. Here's some software-based causes for logical connectivity issues. One is resource conflicts with NICs, improperly configured NIC card, improperly installed configured client software. And this one's a hard one because once you install it improperly, generally you have to uninstall it and reinstall some of these softwares to get it to work right. It's not just as simple as, oh, let me just go in and reconfigure it. It doesn't always work that way. It'd be nice if it did. A lot of times you've got to uninstall whatever the software is and reinstall it. And make sure when you uninstall it, you have all the bits and pieces that software wrote in the software while it was installing removed, which is real difficult sometimes to do with some of these softwares. And then that's why I tell people, especially techs when they're installing software, test out the wazoo that software on installation on a test client somewhere over and over again. Write up the steps. That way when you go to wherever it is to install it, you've got those steps in front of you, and you've done it yourself umpteen times already. That way you're not going out with a piece of software and you're literally testing that install for productivity purposes immediately. Okay, you want some type of test time. And then properly install, configure network protocols, services. All these are generally done, and these generally are not the cause if everything's fairly static in your environment and there's not been any of these changes recently. This would be for like new businesses starting up. You get a whole bunch of new software in, a whole bunch of new hardware in. That's where all this stuff happens at. Then we get to the fun part, help desk. Determine where escalation is necessary, all right? Help desk analyst. Proficient in basic networking, basic workstation, basic networking, troubleshooting, first level support. That's what you're going to do tonight in just a second. Then you've got network specialist. This is a second level support. Network specialist takes the information from the help desk and actually goes in the field and fixes stuff. Okay? Whether it be wiring, network protocols, installing software. Help desk coordinator is a third level support. They put together the help desk analyst and specialist to work together. So the help desk, the first one, the help desk analyst is a person on the phone, talking to people, finding out the problems, and handing that information off the best of their knowledge with the right questions to this network specialist, that then takes that information in the field to fix the problem. Okay? A lot of places you will be both. The first two. You will be the first two and maybe the third. You will be the analyst and the network specialist both. Okay? If you're in a small business, that's real common to where you are taking calls, asking questions, and then physically going out part of the day and fixing those problems, okay, yourself. And that's not uncommon in today's climate for that to happen, and also in an area like Rockford for that to happen, for you to get a job that you might have all three of these possibly. You're doing all three hats. You are it. You are everything. Know when and how to escalate. Follow given procedure. An escalation can be cumbersome because some things stop at this area. The help, if you have that in your area, the help desk analyst, they will stop here. A lot, I would say 90% of issues that come in can be stopped right here at the help desk. It can. Passwords, can't log in, can't get on the internet, can't use the software right. They need to learn how to use it. Stuff like that can pretty much be done there, 90% there at the help desk level. The 10% is where the hardware issues come in, the software-based issues come in. And it's usually only 10%, so most of them are going to stay there, not escalate until they get, if the help desk person cannot solve the problem. So next, an action plan and solution. Here we go. Consider how solution affects users, network, and functionality. First, you've got scope. Looking at the solution's scope is, before implementing the solution, is this an emergency? If it's not an emergency, we can wait. One of the dangers in IT is everything to every department is always an emergency. It will always be an emergency. Everything's top priority. And you've got to determine, is it an emergency? And you only determine that by knowing your what systems have to be in place and have to be working and functioning all the time. Those are top priority systems. An example would be a printer in an area. Out of 3 printers, 1 printer in one area is not working out of 3. Okay? That comes in, and then another call comes in that says, we can't connect to the email system in this part of the building. Which do you think is more important? The printer, that 2 out of the 3 is working in the area, or the email system? Okay, so that's what I'm talking about, emergency. It's not, the printer's not an emergency, it can wait. And you can tell the users when they call, we've got an issue right now, be honest with them, that we're tackling with email system. We will be there immediately as soon as we can to fix the printer problem. But it's not going to be immediate. Just so you know, it might take some time. Don't lie to them. Be honest with them and say it might take a few hours to get this system working to where before we can get to your. Would it be okay if you used one of the other 2 printers? Yeah, that'd be fine. I can do that. I can use the printer. I just have to walk over a few more cubicles. No big deal. Okay. The one thing you don't want to do is say your printer is useless to us right now. We could care less about it, because exchange emails down, and that's a little bit more important than your little stinking printer problem.
Suck it up. It's not good for you.
Yeah, suck it up. Okay, deal with it. Okay. Yeah, exactly. Walk over. Is it going to hurt you a little bit? I think you need to walk a little bit anyway. So it might help you a little bit. Something like that. So you don't want to do that. Okay. So trade-offs on an action plan. And including potential effects is restoring functionality for one user group may remove functionality for others. This is a real danger. If you fix something for one group that they want fixed for whatever purpose or reason without knowing how that affects the total group or total entity of your business, I've had this happen and seen it happen before where a technician or a ticket will come in for something on one department that they have to have now for whatever report, whatever procedure, it gets fixed, or they create a new system for that. But in the process of doing that, it disables a system over here, totally. Okay? That's where the overarching person in your department asks the right questions on, hey, I understand this is important, but let's check all the other systems to make sure this isn't going to conflict if we make this change. So there are some trade-offs on making changes. Then security. Be aware of inadvertent security implications like network access, resource privileges, additions, removal consequences. Before upgrade, patch installation, understand changes, access changes for authorized and unauthorized personnel. Basically what this is talking about is you don't want to just change security nilly-willy on any system or any process without thoroughly finding out why, how it's going to affect everything else, how it's going to affect other procedures, other processes that people are doing. An example would be on security. Say a user moves from HR department to marketing department. They had security in the HR department for a program, a software program, okay? When they move from HR to marketing, they now have different security protocols removed from them, from HR, and they have protocols given to them for marketing. Well, during that transition, you find out that this person still needs access to that one program, and that's why they can't access the program on Monday morning after they started this new job in marketing, is because their privileges were taken away. And so there you have to go back to the drawing board and begin to rework privileges for different areas. You didn't know that marketing had this new privilege, but over the years, as people have been added in marketing, they were just manually given those privileges one by one instead of a group thing. Okay, so now it's made a group thing that when people move to marketing, they now have these security protocols. And again, that happens with turnover, somebody leaving, somebody not documenting things well, whatever. That's where documentation comes in, because what you do in one area can affect other areas. Then scalability. Possible solution types is position a network for future additions, enhancements. Solution type might be a temporary fix for right now that you can live with. And then cost. Does the cost effectively tackle the issue? And do we have the money to tackle the issue? Consider poor network performance. Before network performance identification, you can address these one by one in each area and upgrade them as needed versus the entire organization. So if you have, like, for instance, a graphics department that needs more bandwidth, you don't buy more bandwidth for the entire organization. You can just buy more bandwidth for that one segment of your organization, and more hard drive space, and maybe fiber optic backbone versus Cat5, just for that one segment versus the entire organization. And then action plans, vendors, information. There's tons of stuff online to help you and support you for different software and hardware devices you've got that are in your organization. Consult with others within and outside your organization on, hey, have you had this problem before? More than likely, you'll find a blog or a forum out there where people have had that issue. And I've mentioned this software before, but I'll mention it again. Spiceworks.com has tons of resources for you of administrators that you can search a database of issues to get help. And then finally, implement and test the solution. Once you find a solution, implement and test it. Is the implementation, is it going to a real short time, a real long time? Does it require, it does require foresight, it does require patience for implementations on some of these. And then using methodological and logical approach on fixing items, and then forcing yourself to follow steps each time when you implement every item as it comes across your desk. Step by step, implementing them, rolling them out. And then after you've rolled out, verify it is solved by following up to the individual or the group of people. Test it. Look at other areas. Make sure it doesn't affect other areas, even afterwards. And then after testing, determine how and why the solution was successful. Determine solution's effect on other users and functionality. Avoid creating unintended negative consequences. Like this side of the building doesn't have email for half a day. But when we can wait till the weekend to do whatever update and let everybody have email until the weekend, we can kind of hold off and maybe make it till then. Granted, you might not have everything as fast as you want to, but we'll get it upgraded on the weekend. And then communicate these solutions to your colleagues. Finally, always record everything you do when you're doing help desk information and troubleshooting. The symptoms, the cause, the solution, and then justification for recording. These are important. Impossible to remember each incident on every situation, in every circumstance. That's where databases come into play. Spiceworks.com has a database built into it, a troubleshooting ticketing system where you can begin using it immediately. It doesn't cost anything. People change jobs. People quit their job. They change departments all the time. So if you don't have something in place for everybody at all the time, you don't want it tied to one person in IT. You want it to be IT to be a system, not a group of individual people, but a system. That regardless who's here, your problems are going to be taken care of. Regardless if Joe's on vacation, Jim moved to this department, Jerry moved over there, we have 2 new hires, it's the same system every day. Does that make sense? It's the same procedures every day. Every day. It's not relying upon one person. And there have been, maybe you've worked at places to where Jerry was a professional in this area. Jim was the guy to go to. Well, what if Jim's out on vacation for 2 weeks? Where are you going to go? What if Jerry's on vacation for 2 weeks? What's going to happen? Business stop? Clients don't get their work done? So you've got to have processes and procedures in place to where, regardless who's there, the stuff gets done. Okay? Troubleshooting happens, people get help, work goes on. So centralized database of whatever whether it's an Access database, whether it's as simple as an Excel spreadsheet, if that's all you do. Something that you use, but I would suggest something more dynamic, like an Access database, like Spiceworks.com, there's like SharePoint. SharePoint's a great one. And then some of these other solution types to help you with the whole package is a call tracking system that when a person calls in, immediately it tags that phone number into the database with the user's name, their timestamp, then you type in their problem, you type in what your solution was, or that you escalated it to the network person with their name on it at this date and time. And it immediately goes to their email, and that whole process begins where they begin working on that solution. It assigns it, numbers it, highly customizable. You can have different steps, like say you can have a step to initialize a ticket to where it's active, and then a resolve ticket, a resolve step, and then a close step. So when it's active, it's to the network person. Say they have to install a printer. When they change it from that active mode to resolve mode, the person that submitted that ticket gets an email and says, we noticed this solution was resolved, that Joe installed the printer. Please give feedback on Joe's response and your satisfaction with this ticket. And they give immediate feedback. And then you close it. And then that feedback can become a part of Joe's evaluation later on down the road to determine whether or not they're doing their job right and that they're following through with all the procedures and all of the steps they're supposed to. Supported service list document lists all the supported services, software, and contacts within your environment. Tells you what software you have, what services you provide, what contacts are in your area. And then follow up finally with the user on the problem. Notify others of changes, recording this resolution in a call tracking system as well. Communication, like alerting others of the problem, solution, notifying others of the network changes that might be coming up. Say Friday at 2 o'clock, we are going to have an all email sent out to everybody. Maybe we send it out on Wednesday, saying at 2 o'clock on Friday, we send an email on Wednesday. At 2 o'clock on Friday, we're going to have an upgraded email system. And for an hour, we're not going to have email from 2 to 3. We have to have a critical update occur, whatever the case may be. We've tried our best to work around it, but we're going to use this time frame to do it. And people understand. People will work around it if you give them headway and enough notice. And then many types of changes to record that are way too many to mention. Minor modifications don't need to be recorded, like for instance, an example would be password changes. Generally, people in IT don't record those. It's a simple, everyday thing that people do all the time, changing passwords. Might not be need to be recorded because it's a simple thing, process all the time done, day in and day out. So, last two slides. Avert network problems by network maintenance, documentation, security, and upgrades. Now, the last one you want to be careful on when upgrades are done and how they're done, and that they're tested thoroughly with your system and your computers that are connected to your system and all the software and procedures, because it can cause some havoc. General network maintenance would be this. Here's an example. Say your departments have multiple pieces of software that have SQL databases, which is real common. SQL databases over a period of time build up file size. They queue a cache file size that can grow quite large, especially if that SQL database is not used that often. And you can have a weekly and a monthly maintenance of your SQL database that'll clean up space and make that database more efficient, make it faster, make it quicker for the users to access data. And so that would be one example to help prevent future problems. And then lastly, some specialized tools to help you in troubleshooting. Pinging, which we've done here. You can ping the local computer to make sure the NIC card's working. Specialized tools like we used in here when we created the Cat5 cables to determine, you can have those and walk around and make sure your cable's good that's connected to the computer. And so when I disconnect his computer and I connect it back, I can confirm that that connection is good. And then tool selection dependency could be problem being investigated, network characteristics. And so there's tons of dependencies on tool selection, depending on the network you have, the software you have. And like Cisco's got tons of software and hardware tools that they use that would be specific and dependent upon Cisco devices. So let's go and do this. It is 8:45. Let's come back. Let's come back at 9 o'clock. Does that sound good? We'll come back at 9 o'clock and we will do the troubleshooting lab.